The house on Ridgway Road. The day the Decker sisters vanished, the air was oddly still in Ridgway, Washington. No rain, no wind, just a weight in the sky that locals would later say had felt wrong. The kind of day where the birds don't sing and even the trees seem to listen. The girls Amelia, 10, Chloe, 8, and Josie, 6, had been dropped off at their father's home for a weekend custody visit. Their mother, Leanne Summers, watched the three of them walk up the cracked driveway, backpacks bouncing on small shoulders, hair tied in matching braids like always. She stayed parked at the curb for a second, longer than usual, staring at the chipped white door. Travis Decker didn't come out to greet them. She drove off anyway. They'd been divorced for 4 years now. He still had legal visitation. There had been fights plenty, but nothing she could prove to take him back to court. The Decker home sat on the edge of the national forest, a 2-story, pale blue structure with flaking paint and an overgrown yard. There was no fence, no mailbox. A single porch light flickered at odd hours. Neighbors had whispered for years that Travis wasn't right since the divorce. But nobody had reported anything. At 6:45 p.m. on Sunday, Leanne pulled up outside again. The driveway was empty. She rang the doorbell 3 times. No answer. The porch light clicked on even though the sun hadn't yet gone down. She tried the knob. Locked. She stepped back and called his phone. It rang 5 times and went to voicemail. Her hands started to shake. She called again. Then again. Finally, she walked around to the back, where the old sliding glass door faced the trees. It was open half an inch. She stepped in. The house was too quiet. Not messy, not ransacked, just wrong. The kitchen light was on. A single mug sat in the sink. The girls' backpacks were stacked neatly by the hallway closet, shoes underneath, lunchboxes on top. None of it had been touched. She called out. Nothing. She ran through the house. No Travis. No girls. The back door to the woods was wide open. She called 911 at 7:12 p.m. By 9 p.m., Ridgway police had arrived. They treated it as a potential custody violation at first, noting that Travis might have simply left early with the kids. But Leanne was insistent. He didn't take them anywhere. He didn't even like driving. His truck is still here. Their things are still here. He's not answering his phone. He's not online. Something is wrong. Deputy Harriman stepped inside the house. He paused in the kitchen. He left a note. He said. It was on the fridge, held up by a faded magnet shaped like a bald eagle. The paper was torn from a spiral notebook. The handwriting was Travis's, but the message was short. They were never mine to keep. The town of Ridgway had never seen a case like this. Within 24 hours, the sheriff issued an Amber Alert. Flyers with the girls' school photos were stapled to every post, bulletin board, and telephone pole in a 5-mile radius. Leanne went on local TV, tears streaming, begging for her daughters back. I don't care what happened between us, she pleaded into the microphone. Just bring them home. The Decker family's background came under immediate scrutiny. Travis had been a quiet man, former forest technician, lost his job after the divorce. There had been a restraining order briefly, but it was dropped. He'd attended court-mandated therapy, passed every drug test. There was no clear history of violence. Until now. Day 3 brought the first break. A retired postal worker called in after seeing the flyers. I saw the father that Friday at a gas station off Route 12 near the trailhead. He was with the girls. They looked scared. Scared how? The dispatcher asked. They weren't crying. Just still. And the littlest one, Josie? She was holding his sleeve, like tight. Real tight. When detective pulled the security footage, the image froze every investigator in place. Travis Decker stood at pump 6, filling up a red gas can. The girls were in the back seat of the truck, staring ahead. No smiles, no movement. No one else. With them. It was the last known image of all 4. More questions piled up. Travis's phone pinned last near the Copper Ridge trailhead, deep inside the forest. But his car was still in the driveway. How did he get there? Who helped him? Search. Teams combed the woods. Helicopters, cadaver dogs, even heat-detecting drones. Nothing. No tracks. No discarded belongings. No footprints. Just endless pine and moss and fog. By the end of the first week, the case had gone from missing persons to suspected abduction and homicide. And then the tip line got a strange call. It came from a blocked number. The voice was male, calm, almost rehearsed. You won't find them unless you look under the river. The line went dead. Police drained 2 ponds and diverted a small tributary in the national park. Divers swept the bed of Ridgway Creek for 4 days. They found nothing. But a month later, hikers found something else. Half buried under wet leaves and rocks just a few miles from the trailhead was a set of laminated index cards tied with a red rubber band. The top card read, "I told you, they were never mine to keep." Beneath it, in shaky handwriting, "I didn't want to hurt them, but I couldn't let her win." Detective Sarah Mendel had investigated dozens of missing child cases. But this one, the Decker case, had left her with a knot in her stomach since day one. Something about the silence of the Ridgway Road house felt wrong. There was no sign of forced entry. No signs of struggle. Just that open back door and the echo of 3 girls' laughter frozen in time. 2 days into the investigation, Sarah requested a forensic rescan of the home. She wasn't satisfied with the preliminary sweep. It was the K9 unit that discovered it, a door hidden behind a utility shelf in the laundry room. Basement room. It hadn't appeared on the blueprints. The latch was rusted shut. It took 3 officers and a crowbar to force it open. The air that rushed out was stale, dry, and still somehow cold. Sarah's flashlight scanned over the concrete stairs, down into the dark. What they found wasn't criminal at first glance. It was lived in a mattress with faded cartoon sheets, a plastic tea set, children's books, even a small pink backpack with the name Chloe stitched into the strap. But everything was dusty, cold, unused. It didn't feel like the girls had just been there. It felt like someone had kept them there, secretly, and not recently. On the far wall was something much more disturbing. A board with nails hammered through, sticking out like spikes, and scribbled words in a child's handwriting on the wall beside it. "If I touch it, he hears me." That same line was written 5 more times, lower each time, as if by a hand losing strength. Then, abruptly, the writing stopped. Evidence. Technicians took swabs. Blood was found under one of the nails, a partial match to Josie Decker. Sarah's hand shook as she reviewed the photos later that night. She didn't just see a hidden room. She saw a prison, a place of compliance. Silence, fear. Back upstairs, she stood in the hallway where the girls' backpacks had hung just days before. She could almost hear them calling out to their mom, giggling as they ran to grab cereal, fighting over who got the last toaster waffle. Now the house was quiet. Their mother, Dana, hadn't stopped crying since the morning they were declared missing. She told the press, "I know my girls. They wouldn't run. Travis promised me they'd be back by Sunday. He took them, and something happened." Travis Decker was her ex-husband, a quiet, intelligent man who had won limited custody just 6 months earlier. He had no criminal record, but what he had was secrets. Sarah began digging into his records, old employers, college friends. She drove 3 hours to a university archive to find his thesis. The title stopped her cold: Obedience Through Isolation, Childhood Psychology and Environmental Controls. It wasn't just academic. It was practice. Sarah returned to the basement room the next morning. This time, she stood in the center, closed her eyes, tried to feel what the girls might have felt. And in that moment, she noticed something no one else had: a light draft coming from a vent low in the wall. Half covered by a cardboard box, she pulled it aside. The grate had been removed recently. Behind it, a narrow tunnel, dirt-walled, hand-dug, leading down and away from the house. Someone had planned this. The girls hadn't just vanished. They had been taken through the earth itself. The Motel Ledger 3. Weeks after the shelter was discovered, a man named Richard Calloway walked into the Ashland Police Department holding a motel ledger. He managed a rundown roadside inn 2 hours north of Copper Ridge. "I didn't think anything of it at first," he said. "But that woman on TV, the mom, she looked familiar. I think they stayed here." The ledger was old-school spiral-bound. Paper, room numbers handwritten in smudged ink. He pointed to the entry, Ellis, room 5, rented for 1 night, paid in cash. The date? 1 day after Travis and the girls were last seen. Detectives drove out immediately. The motel was mostly abandoned, just 5 units left open. Room 5 still existed, though time had stripped it bare. The carpet reeked of mildew. The mattress had long been torn. But something had been left behind. Behind the wall vent, they found a drawing, 3 stick figures holding hands, 1 tall, 2 small. In crayon, the name Chloe was scribbled beneath the middle figure. The search expanded north. A regional bolo was issued for anyone using the name Gordon Ellis or fitting Travis's description. Nothing surfaced. Until the call came from a librarian in Junction City. She'd seen the flyer. Said a man and 3 girls had been in weeks earlier. The man used a visitor terminal to print several pages of something. The girls were quiet, didn't speak much. One of them kept whispering numbers, she recalled, like a chant, over and over. 1027, 1027. That number was later traced to a cabin code, a public land structure deep in the Cascadia Reserve. Rangers confirmed it had been broken into around the same time, but nothing was reported stolen. A small cot had been used. Burn marks suggested fire was built inside without proper ventilation, and more drawings, scrawled in pencil, across a wooden plank wall. "We miss you, Mommy." This time, all 3 names, Josie, Chloe, Amelia. The cabin had no fingerprints. But a single long hair found in the cot matched Leanne's DNA. Investigators theorized Travis had used one of her old brushes or clothing items to comfort the girls or control them. Leanne broke down when she saw the drawings, not out of grief, out of certainty. "They're still alive," she whispered to Harriman. "They're still calling for me." She begged to join the search teams. Harriman hesitated. But the FBI, now involved under interstate abduction statutes, granted conditional access. They gave Leanne a satellite phone, a ranger escort, a map marked with every cabin and unregistered shelter across a 200-mile zone. She left the next morning. Foot. By week's end, 2 rangers found a trail of tied ribbons on pine trees, fabric scraps knotted at precise intervals. 3 colors, purple, blue, and pink, Chloe's favorite colors. The trail led nowhere obvious. It spiraled, looped, then stopped abruptly at a sheer cliff. At the base, a tangle of logs, char marks, remnants of a tarp. And a small hand-carved totem, a stick figure family. 4 figures, one with an X over its head. Josie's handwriting was etched into the base. "Daddy says Mommy's dead." "I don't think so." Harriman stood at that cliff for a long time. He didn't say it aloud, but his gut twisted with the thought. Maybe Travis wasn't planning to raise them. Maybe he was planning to erase them. Letters in the ashes 3 months. Into the investigation, just when leads began to dry up, a controlled burn in the outskirts of the Klamath Forest uncovered something buried in scorched dirt beneath a fallen pine. It was a fireproof lockbox, partially melted, partially intact. Inside were letters. Some were written in shaky cursive, others in what could only be a child's hand, riddled with misspellings and backward letters. All dated over the span of weeks, all addressed to Mom. "Dear Mommy, we are in the woods. Daddy says you are sleeping in the sky. I miss your cooking. Love, Amelia. Hi Mom, it's me Chloe. Daddy gets mad sometimes. I hide my drawings. Josie is trying to keep us calm. She sings, I want to come home. Love you forever. Mommy, we are scared. I think Daddy's sick. He talks to shadows now. Some letters had damp blotches, either water or tears. One page, half burned, bore Travis's handwriting. Unlike the children's, his note was chillingly lucid. They ask for you less and less now. I wish that brought me peace. It doesn't. I hear you in their voices. I see you in their fear. Another, dated 3 days later. There's no coming back. I know that now. Agents analyzed the paper, the ink, the box. Everything matched. Timeline expectations. But they found something else. A hair sample embedded in the strip of tape. Used to bind the letters. It belonged to Josie, and it was recent. More recent than the other. Materials in the box. She was still alive weeks after this. Last confirmed cabin sighting, which meant Travis had been moving them again. The terrain ahead was merciless. Hills rose like fists from the land, dense with brush, thickets, old logging paths that hadn't seen footsteps in decades. The National Guard sent in drones with infrared. One flagged a heat signature. It was faint, flickering, but it moved. Agents hiked in. They found nothing except one sock child-sized. Pink with a frayed unicorn face. It was later confirmed to have Amelia's DNA on it. And next to it, drawn into the dirt with a stick, a crude circle with 4 dots inside. A code Josie had once used in school for family. Harriman didn't. Sleep that night. He called Leanne. Told her what they'd found. She was silent on the line. Then, quietly, I think they're leading us. Leading us where? He asked. To the end. At the base of Devil's Backbone Ridge, one of the most treacherous elevations in southern Oregon, a wildlife photographer discovered an old trail camera he'd forgotten to retrieve. It had captured 120 blurry shots. Most showed elk. 2 showed something else. Frame 87. 3 figures, barely discernible, crossing a dry stream. 1 adult. 2 children. All in ragged clothes. Frame 88. 1 child. Turning back, looking directly into the lens, her eyes wide, her mouth open. As if screaming. The man. In the orchard 3 weeks after the trail camera footage was released to federal agencies, a farmer named Ellis Redford reported something strange from his property near the northern edge of Butte Valley. He'd seen a man ragged, bearded, barefoot walking across his orchard around dawn. The man didn't look like a drifter, Ellis said. He looked like a ghost trying to remember he was alive. Redford had tried to call out, but the man disappeared into the trees behind the property. When deputies arrived 2 hours later, they found bare footprints in the dirt, some adult-sized, some small. A child's sandal strap was caught in a blackberry thicket, and someone had tied a bundle of pine needles into a shape that resembled a daisy, Chloe's favorite flower. The FBI swarmed the area. Dogs were brought in. Helicopters hovered overhead. But it was Josie's scarf that turned everything upside down, tied loosely to a low-hanging branch just inside the forest line. The fabric was sun-bleached and frayed, but unmistakable. Leanne confirmed it in tears. They're moving at night, Harriman told the team. They know we're close. He's not hiding them. He's walking them like some kind of twisted pilgrimage. A new theory formed. Travis was leading them. Through forgotten log-in roads, ghost trails, and remote fire lanes. No stolen vehicles, no digital footprint. Just human instinct, maps, and madness. Satellite recon found an old ranger's hut deep in the Marble Mountains. Harriman and his team hiked out. They found fresh ash. In the fireplace, 3 mismatched bowls on the table. And in the corner of the room, behind a loose plank in the wall, a child's notebook. The cover was torn, the pages nearly illegible. But on page 9, there was a drawing, 4 stick figures, 1 tall. 3 small. The tallest had scribbles across the face. Thick black lines. Next to it, in shaky handwriting, "Don't look in his eyes. He's not daddy anymore." Harriman froze reading. He sat on the floor of that hut for nearly an hour. The next page held a map. Not precise, but directional. Trails marked with arrows. A small cave drawn near the ridge. A handprint beside it. "Red crayon. Josie. Double quotes. This is her," Harriman whispered. "She's showing us where to go." At dusk, they reached the ridge. And, just as on the map, hidden behind bramble and stone, they found a narrow cave entrance. Inside was darkness thick as oil, but 20 feet in, they saw them. 3 makeshift beds. A broken lantern. Crayon markings on the walls and written in charcoal. "He sleeps." "We wait." Josie's handwriting again. They weren't there. Not anymore, but they had been. Only days earlier. Harriman stepped outside, staring into the tree line. "He's unraveling," he said. "And they're still alive." He didn't know if that made it better or worse. The voices in the cabin 5 miles from the cave, tucked in a forgotten patch of national forest. An old trapper's cabin stood half collapsed. It had no power, no plumbing, and no path leading to it, just dry moss and forgotten time. But on a cold October morning, a hunter named Reuben Glass swore he heard voices echoing from inside. He waited outside, listening. A child's voice. "Should we go now?" A man's reply. "Not yet. It's not safe." Reuben didn't move. He backed away, breath held, and walked straight into a ranger patrol half a mile out. Within hours, the place was surrounded. Inside the cabin, they found more signs. Burned. Matchsticks, a girl's t-shirt used as a curtain, tree bark carved with initials. CD. They swept the structure, then checked the cellar. It was empty, but freshly disturbed. Dirt had been shifted. An old cot had recent indentations. Next to it, a stack of drawings tied with thread. Harriman flipped through them slowly. More figures with darkened faces. More red handprints. One drawing had the word "run" written over and over again in purple crayon. He turned to the back page. A simple sketch of a truck, their family truck, with all 4 doors open. Above it, a stick figure held 3 others by rope. "We're not going home," it said beneath. The team moved fast, widening the search area. Harriman believed they were circling inwards, that Travis was looping back toward the county line. Leanne sat silent when shown the drawings, until she spotted a symbol scratched faintly in the corner of one, a small cross with a ring on top. "Ankh," she whispered. "Egyptian. Chloe saw it in a museum once." Josie had remembered it. It was their silent way of saying, "We're still here." That night, under drone surveillance, agents caught a flicker of movement in the trees. 3 figures, walking single file under moonlight. A 4th shadow trailed behind. They disappeared before ground teams arrived. But near the trail, a bundle of feathers had been tied to a branch. In the center, a note on torn paper. "If he sleeps too long, he changes." Harriman stared at the note for a long time. He didn't know what it meant. Only that Josie wasn't just surviving. She was documenting. Like a witness. Like a historian. 2 days later, 14 miles east, a school janitor in the abandoned Red Bluff Elementary heard a sound while repairing a window. Laughter. Faint. Childlike. He found nothing. But in the old nurse's office, wedged behind a cabinet, was a strip of fabric with blue polka dots, Chloe's pajamas. And drawn on the dust-covered mirror, almost there. Echoes beneath the school. Red Bluff Elementary had been shuttered for years, the windows covered in grime, the floors warped from neglect. But now it was a crime scene. FBI agents, forensics, and local deputies moved through the hallways like ghosts. Harriman knelt in the nurse's office, still staring at the message on the mirror. Almost there. It was Chloe's handwriting. Every expert confirmed it. And that strip of pajamas wedged behind the cabinet. A perfect match. But where was she? Down in the old boiler room, agents found something else. Scraped into the cement wall with a rusted paperclip was a sequence of numbers: 34.2180, 118.5927 GPS coordinates. The location was remote, a hillside plot 2 counties away, near an abandoned mining shaft. Harriman didn't wait. He and 2 field agents were in the air. Within the hour, what they found shocked everyone. The old shaft was sealed with plywood and overgrown with brush, but the soil near it had been disturbed. A metal dog tag lay half buried in the dirt. It read, "Property of J. Decker." Josie. Inside the shaft, they lowered lights and cameras. No bodies, no kids. But something far stranger. Dozens of drawings, pages scattered. Names scratched into the rock. Footprints too small to belong to any adult. And at the deepest end, a small wooden stool, a Barbie doll propped on top. And carved beneath it, "He's not my dad anymore." Back at base, Harriman traced the GPS lead to a public record search. Mining shaft? It was owned once by a shell company. The owner? Travis Decker. Bought 5 years before the murders. Planned, prepped, executed. They had always assumed. Travis snapped, but this proved he had prepared for this. This was no accident. That night, thermal drones caught another heat signature, a mile from the mining site. A single figure. Adult-sized. They moved fast. By the time agents arrived, the camp was abandoned, but still warm, still smoking. And a notebook lay open beside the extinguished fire. Its last page simply read, "She bit him when he tried again. Then he cried." He never cried before. I think he's still in there. But not for long. Harriman's hands trembled. It was Josie's handwriting again. Each message was getting darker. Each message was closer to the end. Glass tunnel. The rescue team had to crawl the last 30 yards on their bellies. Beneath the mining shaft, a narrow passage opened behind. A crumbled support wall. No one had seen it on initial sweep. It was hidden behind collapsed debris. But thermal scans had shown something different. Residual heat. Patterns deeper than the cameras could reach. The FBI's search and rescue unit entered at dawn. What they found stunned even the most hardened agents. The tunnel eventually widened into a low cavern. And that's when they saw it. A crude structure, no bigger than a walk-in closet, made of old plexiglass sheets, plywood and metal bars. It had been camouflaged to blend into the stone. A kind of cell. A cage, and inside it, small clothing. Torn blankets. Empty food cans. Broken crayons. Blood. And red marker smeared across one wall. We were 3. Now we're 2. Soon just 1. Forensics swept the site. Multiple DNA samples. Chloe, Josie, and Danny. But no remains. And a partial boot print near the back wall. Matched Travis's hiking boots. The same ones he wore when last seen. Across the country, the media erupted. FBI nears answers in Decker case. Is one child still alive? The public demanded answers, but Harriman refused to release false hope. Still, something was changing. Josie's journal pages recovered from the site painted a disturbing picture. They weren't just held captive, they were tested, played. With each girl had been locked in a different chamber. Each was told a different lie. Chloe was told her sisters had died. Josie believed she could save them if she obeyed. Danny. Her pages ended suddenly. A final scrawl read, "He said I wasn't real, but I remember Mom's hair." Then came the breakthrough, a soil sample beneath. Josie's makeshift cot matched sediment from a completely different area -40 miles west. Someone had moved her. Recently. Harriman S team shifted the search to a private forest once leased by a timber company. The land was undeveloped, vast, and difficult to track, but Josie had left another clue. On a crumpled wrapper, tucked into a crack in the plexiglass cage, was a date and a word: 8/19, Larch. Larch trees were rare in Oklahoma, but a dense pocket of them grew on the west edge of the timberland. It was August 18th. They had less than 24 hours. The clearing the helicopter touched down. Just before dusk, the clearing in the larch grove was eerily silent. No bird song, no wind. Just the smell of pine sap and something metallic. Agent Harriman and 2 FBI tactical officers moved swiftly through the trees, guided by thermal pings from the drone overhead. A glint of light among the trunks caught their eyes. A rusted trailer, overgrown with moss and nettle. No path led to it. Whoever had put it there never meant to return. Inside, they found what they'd feared and what they hadn't dared hope. Chloe's shoe, Josie's sweater. A child's journal, not Josie's this time, but Danny's. Her handwriting, messy and rushed. The final entries were barely legible. He says I have to pretend that I'm not one of them. That I was a mistake. Mom's hair smelled like lemon. The van comes tomorrow. He said if I run, I'll break them. But I saw the larch trees. Then, nothing. Behind the trailer was a buried hatch, freshly disturbed dirt. The teen hesitated, then opened it. A narrow stairwell led to an underground chamber, dry, fortified, cold. Inside were 3 sleeping bags. 2 were empty. One had a small body. It was Josie. She was alive. Barely. Emaciated. Eyes sunken, mute. But she was breathing. A rescue chopper flew her out within minutes. The nation watched in stunned silence as she was lifted from the trees like a ghost. The headlines screamed, "One Decker child found alive." But what of the others? Josie's recovery was slow, and it was weeks before she spoke. Her first words were barely above a whisper. He said Chloe broke the rules. He said Danny didn't exist. Investigators were stunned. What did she mean by didn't exist? It was then the psychologist brought forward a chilling truth. Trauma-induced memory manipulation. The girls had been subjected to months, years of lies, separation, threats. They'd been forced to question each other's existence. But forensic science doesn't lie. And blood patterns in the glass tunnel told a brutal story. Chloe had died there. Her remains, scattered near a vent shaft, confirmed it. As for Danny, there was no record of her birth. No photos, no school registration, no medical files. Yet her DNA had been found in 3 places. She was real, and she was missing. Single lead remained. A gas station attendant 43 miles north remembered a man matching Travis's appearance, older, gaunt, wearing sunglasses, buying fuel and snacks with a small girl in tow. 3 days before Josie's rescue, the vanishing point. 2 months after Josie's rescue, the case had cooled again, like a fire that burned itself hollow. Despite nationwide alerts and every trail gone over twice, Travis Decker and Danny remained ghosts. Interviews, tips, even sent dogs led nowhere. But Josie had begun drawing. Her therapist encouraged it. At first it was scribbles, then houses, a swing set. Her mother, then she drew a bridge. "I dreamed of it," she said. "But I wasn't sleeping." The bridge she described didn't exist in Oklahoma. But an analyst from Montana, reviewing old interstate reports, recognized it. An old railway bridge over Clearwater Gorge, long since decommissioned. Agents flew out. There, buried beneath a loose rock shelf near the bridge's northern end, they found a boot. Tiny, worn, blood-stained. DNA matched Danny, but no body. Only drag marks leading down toward the river, washed by time. Nearby, in a small hollow in the rock, they found something else. A crumpled piece of notebook paper in a plastic bag. It read, "If you find this, please tell Mom I loved her. He's not my dad. He said he traded names with the wind." Underneath, written shakily, "Donnie." That paper was the last confirmed trace. Travis Decker was never found. The FBI believes he either fled the country or died in the woods, taking Danny with him, or leaving her behind in some hidden, godforsaken place. Josie lives now with her aunt and uncle in Oregon. She doesn't speak much, but some nights when the wind picks up, she sits at the window, holding Chloe's bracelet, waiting. And sometimes she draws bridges,